All right, guys. Thank you all again for joining us. Today is August the 14th at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you for joining the International Association of Woodcarvers, where woodcarvers are here helping woodcarvers. We've been on these meetings through the pandemic, and our plan is to continue these. This is our monthly meeting that we're having for August. Our plan is to have another one in September and then move back to maybe more frequent meetings starting in October. So look forward to that. Today on our meeting, I want to let you know we have a special guest from Provo, Utah, Mrs. Susan Hendrick. She is the author of a couple of books, one called Carving Wood Spirits, The Basics. The second is Carving Wood Spirits Beyond the Basics, and she's going to be joining us here momentarily. Just want to tell you about some things that are coming up in the carving community, so some of you can be aware of what's available. Don't forget woodcarvingacademy.com. They have subscription services out there where you can go out and subscribe and see videos of carving classes that's been held in the past. They also have some carving classes that are coming up. I'm going to talk a little bit about those now. In September, Janet Cordell is going to have a class on carving female faces. In September, Dave Stetson's also going to have a class on caricature expression. Starting in October, Bob Hershey's going to have Red the Fox, a caricature class. October, Kevin Applegate is going to have a Frankenstein bottle stopper class. And Dwayne Gosnell is going to be doing a Santa with a lantern class. That's also in October. And then Dale Green has a class in October, carving a Santa. And in November, Dave Stetson's going to have a class on carving a Santa. So it looks as though everybody's kind of gearing up for the holiday carvings. If you're interested in taking any of these classes, it's a great opportunity to meet with these instructors in a group setting, but you get one-on-one instruction for the full time of the class. So if it's, say, 6 classes, you're getting 12 hours of instruction. You get to see everything that instructor is doing for those 12 hours. So take advantage of this opportunity if you get a chance. Again, there's also subscription bases out there on Woodcarving Academy that you can subscribe to and see other classes that's been held in the past. Today in the meeting, we once again have a Helvie knife that is here that I've advertised on social media. It's a 2-inch blade that Helvie's donated to us. We're going to do another live auction in our chat today for this knife. If you're interested in getting the opportunity to buy the knife and the sheath, place the bids in the chat throughout the meeting. At the end of the meeting, we'll finally call that auction, and the winner needs to stay on after the meeting so that we can gather your information and get payment on that. The money we make off of this auction is going towards the subscription for Zoom that we use for these meetings for the International Association of Woodcarvers. Tom and I are also now doing the carving podcast through Zoom, where we meet just the two of us with an additional carver, and we have an interview type discussion. That's the carving podcast, and Tom will be putting links to that information in the video that we place out on YouTube. So if you're interested in the podcast, go out and check that out. But again, the money that we raise in something like an auction goes towards the subscription for Zoom so that we can continue to do that. So far on the podcast, we've had Larry Green, Doug Linker, Jim Feather. The next one that we're doing is actually going to be recorded on Tuesday with Mr. Dave Stetson. Dave's in the meeting with us today, so look forward to that. We should have a good discussion with Dave, and we'll try to put that out by the end of next week. We want to thank Dave Levy that's on here today. Levy as in Chevy, he's with us. He does all of our behind the scenes editing and stuff on our audio for the podcast. So we want to thank Dave for all of his work. Most of you all know Dave. I think Dave actually just put a bid on the knife down in the chat. So Dave, thanks for all that you do as far as helping us with these meetings and stuff. We can't do it without you. So a couple other things, and then I'll stop talking. We want to thank Chipping Away. You'll see the sign here behind me. They continue to support us. If you're looking for carving needs, make sure you go out and check out Chipping Away. Our plan will be to do some more giveaways for gift certificates from them. And again, they're a big supporter of our group. We also want to thank Woodcarving Illustrated. If any of you all recently got your Woodcarving Illustrated in the mail, You'll notice they've done another spread or another article on our group. We want to thank them for advertising these meetings. And they've also done an ongoing advertising spot for us that is helping us continue the group and get members and be able to do the things that we do. So thank you for Woodcarving Illustrated. Our next live meeting after today will be September the 11th. That will be with Dan Hero. You can go out and check out Dan's work out on Instagram. He'll be meeting with us on September the 11th. And then I'll be releasing some dates as far as how we're going to do it starting in October. We're looking at maybe a bi-weekly process or maybe even weekly, depending on how many volunteers we get to do demonstrations. So we'll be talking about that. Having said all of those things, there are a few other things I'll talk about at the end of the meeting, but we'll wait till the end for that. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and reintroduce Susan Hendrick. She's coming to us from Provo, Utah. She's a member of the Wasatch Carving Group, Wasatch Mountains out in Utah. So I'm sure she'll be talking a little bit about that. Susan, we appreciate you coming on with us. We thank you for taking time out to meet with us. And we look forward to hearing what you have to share with us. So at this time, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I am really happy to be here and to share with everyone what my journey was in carving. I actually think that I started having an interest in carving when I was a little girl. My mother was a woodworker, and so everything she did in the house, I thought I should do too, whether it was cooking or baking or doing the laundry or woodworking. And so I worked alongside her many times making things for the house. And so when I grew up and went to college, my major was woodworking. And I thought that I would be a woodworking teacher. And the other thing that was really interesting to me as a child was that one Christmas, she asked my younger sister and I not to go down into the basement for a few months. We lived in Upper Michigan, and our play area in the winter was downstairs or outside in the snow. And so we were out in the basement a lot, and we just didn't go down in the basement for a couple of months. And on Christmas morning, under the Christmas tree was a baby doll for each of us. And the doll was in a cradle that she had built. I didn't know it at the time, but she did. And then she made quilts for the baby dolls. And then it said Santa brought everything. And then she took us down in the basement, and downstairs she had a hutch with dishes in it. She had a table and chairs that she had built. She had all of these things to play house with. And I was probably about 7, and my younger sister was 4. And it dawned on me for the first time that my mother was Santa. And the experience touched me so much that I carve mostly Christmas things to this day. And so when I started carving, that's what I wanted to carve, was Santas. And over time, I had so many Santas that I finally had to start selling them, or I could not buy any more wood. I think we probably all experienced that a few times. So anyway, that was my beginning of my love for wood and for Christmas. And when we moved to Kansas, we actually moved quite a few times in our marriage. And we moved to Kansas, and I found someone who could teach who taught wood carving classes. They were 8-week classes, and his name was Larry Heinen. And I joined his class, and then carved, first of all, this sea captain. That was the first thing I carved. And then the second 8-week class, I carved this little Santa. And that was what I wanted to carve in the first place. And so I was so excited. And then bought Ron Ransom's book. And of course, this came from that book. And I was so excited to find out that somebody had a book on carving Santas. And that was, I became passionate about carving Santas, and I just carved Santas almost exclusively for many years, and then branched out more and more as we moved, and I got to meet other carvers who could teach me. then I just branched out and started doing other things. And I've just had so many wonderful teachers over the years. I could not even name them all. I've had so many. And we moved about every 3 years or every 5 years. And so in those moves, I just met so many more carvers and instructors. And really, when we moved to Texas for the first time, that was where I got probably the biggest number of teachers, because they had a seminar that they did twice a year. And I would go to that and spend 5 days in a motel so that I could take these classes. And that's where I met a lot of the carvers. Dave Stetson was one. And gosh, I can't remember all the names, but many carvers over the years. And to this day, I still take classes because I feel like I have so much more to learn. I just love taking classes. And when I first started, I thought I was never going to learn how to carve, because I was basically doing it. Once my 8-week classes were over, I was on my own for a while, and I didn't learn how to sharpen until I got a set of, well, my husband gave me this set of tools that weren't very good. And so I spent time sharpening those again and again and again until they were down to little nubs. And when those were completely gone, I learned how to sharpen, and so I was a good sharpener after that. And so I encourage people who maybe are starting out just to get an old set that might be junky, and just practice on those and let those be destroyed, but learn how to sharpen, because if you don't sharpen well, then you will quit carving. You just will, because it's not any fun anymore if your tools aren't sharp. I don't know, does anybody have any questions about anything that? I can show you a couple of books that I wrote. These were in probably the last 6 years. I wrote this one first. It's called Carving Wood Spirits Beyond the Basics. And we use quite a few, 8 to 10 tools in there. And then PJ Peary and I, he is the manager for Treeline, which is a wood carving shop here in Provo. And he kind of talked me into doing this book, because I had said I wanted to do a book, and then I never did it. And so he finally said, you know, I'll photograph for you if you'll do the book. And so he helped me put this together. And it was a wonderful experience, and we learned a lot from it. And so then, as he was selling things to people over the years, he realized that there were a lot of people that didn't have 10 tools and all the tools that I had. So we decided to write a book that would be Carving Wood Spirits, the Basics, with only 3 tools. And basically it pretty much the same steps, but just using fewer tools. And so those 2 books are now available, and they've been selling well. We really have enjoyed doing that. And then I had a chance to also know a wood turner who was across the street. He was one of the foremost wood turners in the world for many years, and his name was Dale Nish. And I wrote a book with him on wood turning. And that was a really great enjoyment too. We took about 2 years to write that book, but it came out great, and it's still selling well, although he's passed on since then. And some of the pieces that I carved for the books, I actually did them on short sticks rather than the long ones. I have some of the sticks back here for some of the books, and those are a little harder to carve when you're trying to demonstrate it for a camera. So I did a bunch of short ones, and those were the ones that I just cut off afterwards, and I'm going to give to my family members this Christmas, and some of the ones that I actually have photographed for the book. And I've got quite a few of those, because we put in quite a few of the pictures and the different looks of a Santa. Actually, it looks like a Santa, but it's supposed to be a mountain man or a wood spirit. But I tend to, everything looks like a Santa in the end for me. I don't know why. These are some of the other ones. But one of the ones I designed, actually, I had a friend design this one. It's a little fat Santa in his underwear. And that's one of my rough outs that I have. I have a guy in Missouri do my rough outs for me. And so I have that rough out, and I have, I've designed several different ones. This one right here, there's the rough out in the original piece. And that one was in a magazine. I think it was in Woodcarving Illustrated, or it may have even been in the original carving magazine that we no longer have. I can't remember which one it was in, but I've been lucky enough to have been in several magazines and be on the cover of 3 of the Woodcarving Illustrated with different Santas and ornaments and things like that, Christmas ornaments. So that's always fun to brag a little bit about that. Here's a couple of other rough outs I have. This one is I call him a Russian Santa. He's got a hat kind of like a Russian hat. And then this one is my one that I've done with animals. So the rough out has animals all the way around it, and they're kind of silly little animals. They're not realistic at all. I tend to carve a little more in realism, a little more realistic faces than I do caricature faces, but I love to carve caricatures, and I'm always trying to take classes in caricatures because I tend to smooth them out and make them so they don't have as many textures to them, because that's just my way of carving. I smooth things out a little more. And I've taken classes with Chris Hammock quite a few times, and he's one that just teases me, because I will tell him, I really want to carve just like you. I just want to carve, those really straight lines, and I want to have some carvings that look like yours. And he'll do a piece for me, and when he comes back around the table and he's ready to help me again, I've smoothed everything out that he put in, and he just goes, "Damn, Susan!" He just gets so frustrated with me, but I can't help it. It just seems like that's the way I carve, and I've just had so many wonderful teachers over the years, and I encourage beginner students to take classes. What you can learn in a class in a week, it would probably take you 2 years on your own to learn. And I just think that classes are wonderful. You experience different ways to carve things, different ways to use tools. And I just think that that's where I've learned the most is I think that sometimes I had to do some things on my own and practice, but as far as the great things that I learned that really helped me in the most were in classes. And I just developed my own style after a while, and that's what you do. But, I just really feel that people should take classes, whether it's Zoom classes or classes in person, and just keep learning and keep trying, because it's wonderful. Carving is my passion, and I would do it 8 hours a day and many more if I could.
Hey, Susan, we've had some questions in the chat. What inspires you the most to keep carving, and what are you carving now? That came from Nikki Reese. That's with us.
What inspires me the most? I actually think that what inspires me is the excitement of the students that I teach. I teach every week 3 classes, and they're the 3-hour classes, each of them. And I get excited when I see them finally get something. When I teach them the pull cut and the push cut, and the push cut, you're using both thumbs on the back of the knife, and that's the hardest one for most people to learn. And when they get it, it's like this light goes on in their face, and they just light up. They finally understand what that motion is that you make in a push cut, and that, I guess, that inspires me to keep going and to keep just trying to do different things myself. I just think that's wonderful. And what am I doing right now? Well, the last thing that I've done is this relief carving. This is my brother-in-law, and he came to visit me and wanted to do a picture of, or a carving of him holding his ukulele. He's in several ukulele groups, and he did a lot of this carving, and I was teaching him as we were going. So that's probably the latest thing I've done. And I still have to work on his face. He had to leave and go back home to California. So I'm going to finish that up for him and give it to him for Christmas. But that was a lot of fun. I've done some relief carving, but not lots and lots of it. So it was enjoyable to me. And then I like to work on cottonwood bark a lot and do houses, the ones that you can separate and have the light showing through. I really enjoy those a lot. And so that's something that that's not recent, but it's an ongoing thing. I like to do cottonwood bark a lot. Did that answer the question?
I think so. Another question, have you considered doing a book with the ornament patterns that you sell individually? I guess some of the ornaments are out on Etsy on your page there. Have you considered doing a book with those patterns?
I have, actually. And PJ and I have talked about it many times, and because he runs a wood carving shop and they sell books, he kind of knows that, or feels that carving a book on carving ornaments will not sell as well as what we've done in the past. And so he's been a little reluctant to do that with me, but I still feel strongly about doing it. So yes, I think that we will do it one day. I would also like to do a book on power carving the sticks, because there's a lot of people that when they get certain age, they can't handle the knives as well because they aren't as strong. And so power carving kind of can fill in for where they can't do the deeper cuts. So I'd like to do that as well. But yes, I do feel that a book of ornaments would be great. And I've designed so many. I have hundreds of ornaments that I do, and they're not even all on my Etsy pages because I just keep designing them. I just have fun. And it used to be I couldn't draw a stick figure, and so the practice has been great.
Susan, it's Dan. I just was wondering, you said you spent a lot of time learning how to sharpen. Do you have a system that you use that you could explain to us?
Well, I do sharpen with a diamond stone, and I have a medium and a coarse stone that I use mostly for my knives. But I have a Burke system, and that's what I use the most, and that's just faster for me. And so when I have students in classes, I can very quickly get their tool sharpened. I teach them how to do it on a diamond stone, but most students don't have the Burke system, and so they bring their tools here unsharpened quite often, and so we sharpen them and get them ready for them. But that's what I use the most. And the Burke system has wheels that are about 8 inches round, and there is sandpaper on 2 of the wheels, and then there's leather on another 2 wheels. And so that's what I use, and I find it good. It's a good system. It goes slow. It doesn't go too fast. Doesn't burn my tools. So I like to use it.
That's great. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
So another question in the chat. Someone wants to know what you recommend to develop your own style in wood carving.
I think it's developed by just carving and carving and carving and carving. That's how I developed a style. Was not only the classes did I take and did I learn different things from different instructors and how to use the tools, but when I learned their method. I would go home and practice their method, and eventually all of their methods sort of came together, and I developed my own way of doing an eye, and my own way of doing noses and things like that. Even though I had, like Pete LeClaire taught how to do faces, and I took, I don't know, 15 or more classes from him over time, and yet I still can't do a face exactly like his unless I have one of his pieces in front of me, and then I can copy it really well, but I can't do that. I just can't seem to get his style to come through my hands. And so my style eventually developed, and I just had it. I didn't really do anything to make it that way. And I think that's what's going to happen with most people.
You were talking about your walking sticks, or sticks in the back. Would you kind of go through your process with that, if you don't mind?
Sure. With walking sticks, you want to be able to actually use them. They're wonderful as decoration in your home, but if you want to use them, you want to be able to have a spot where your hand will rest, that the faces won't interfere. And this one, I didn't make it that way, but I did on most of the other ones. And so this one right here, I'm going to stand up and you won't see my face for a minute, but when you're wanting to make a walking stick, you're wanting to get an aspen stick or something that you can carve, and then hold your hand at, so your arm is about parallel with the floor. And then from there, you want about 6 inches above and 6 inches below that don't have carving on it, so that when you go uphill, you can move your hand up, and when you go downhill, you can move your hand down. Because you will move your hand a lot in actual hiking. And so that's the very first thing to do. And then to turn the stick until you find a comfortable spot for your hand. Where does it feel the best? And I like to turn them a lot when I first get them, and find out where it's comfortable, so that when I'm moving my hand, it's comfortable all the way up and down. And then when I find that spot, then I actually put my hand there and I draw a line right between my thumb and my finger, straight up the stick and down the stick. And that becomes my center line for my faces, because that way my hand is basically forward somewhat. I just hold it where it's most comfortable for you, and then find the spot that will show, so that the carving is facing outward. And then start by doing all of the steps for a face. I like to first make an eye channel. My eye channel then sets the forehead, and it sets where the nose is going to be, and it sets where the mouth is going to be, and the jaw. And of course, the jaw is usually covered by a mustache and a beard. But those things, if you set that first, set your eye channel first, carve your nose. And once that nose is completely carved, then carve your eyes. And then you have everything set for the rest of the face. Most of mine don't have ears showing, and so I don't worry about the ears. The hair is covering that. And my book will show a lot about carving the hair. I think the hair is important. And if you can carve hair so it's not all broken up, and you have some movement to it, I think that's what makes nice hair. And I guess that's the basics of carving a stick.
And we had Gary Litchfield ask, he can't find aspen sticks locally. Is there somebody that carries those, or is there another kind of wood that you recommend for walking sticks?
Well, you can carve it out of basswood. Basswood doesn't have all the, somebody's turned those, so they're not quite as pretty. But the people that run Treeline, which is here in Provo, Utah, they have aspen sticks, and they have dozens and dozens of them, and they're come in all shapes and sizes, because they've just been cut from the woods. And I guess that's the only place that I'm aware of that has aspen sticks. There's probably other shops too, but that's one that I recommend.
So we talked before the meeting started that you were going to try to show your shop there. Do you want to go ahead and try to do that now?
Sure.
Okay.
Let's see. Is it in the right direction? Okay.
Yeah, we'll give Tom some time to switch the camera there. Okay, we can see it now.
Okay. It has something in front of it on mine, but I'll just show it. This is the teaching room that I have. I have students in here 3 times a week and lots of pictures for them to use, a painting station, lots of ceramic pieces that they can look at for ideas. And then of course I have all my rough outs and things sitting around, things that I've carved through the years, and lots of them I haven't painted. But I find that the students quite often can see the carvings better if they're not painted, because they can see the shadows that I've carved. Got lots of books, lots of tools for my students. And then I have another room that all my machines are in, and that's attached to it. And this is my Burke sharpener right here. And then I have my power tools, my NSK and my Fordham. And then over here, we do wood burning. So I'm teaching wood burning. This is a box full of ornaments and Santas that I've been working on painting. And I just chuck them in a box because my grandbabies are coming. And I didn't want them to break anything. So I just threw them all in a box and kind of hid them from them. And then I do a lot of wood finishing, or let's see, wood furniture finishing. So I have another spot in my shop that is furniture. I got a chair here. I'm finishing for somebody. I've got a clock over here. It's kind of a mess right now because I have so many things going on, and I had to bring a lot of the things in this room, so that my grandbabies wouldn't touch them. And so it's a little bit of a problem right now. We're kind of in a mess. And back here is my lathe, and I have another room behind. So my really messy things are under the porch of my house. We have a wraparound porch, and so I do most of my dusty things back under here, and then further down.
And because Susan's moving away from her mic, it's probably a little difficult to hear.
Did I get too far away from the mic?
Yeah, but that's fine. I mean, we can still hear you pretty much.
Okay, well, we can turn that off then. I don't know if that helped you to see what I do. I kind of do a little bit of everything. I teach wood carving, I teach wood burning, I teach chip carving, a little bit of everything. Whatever people want to do, I have a little knowledge of.
So you showed some of your rough outs there earlier. Is there a way that people can get rough outs from you besides just taking a class from you?
Sure, they can actually go onto my Etsy page. I have most of my rough outs on there, and they can buy them straight from the Etsy page. And I'm not very good with social media. don't often post on there, but I try to every once in a while, but I forget how to do it in between sometimes. So right now I don't know how to do my Instagram account. So you may see some old stuff on there, but I'm always asking my kids to show me how to do it because somehow I forget in between. But I do have Facebook pages, and you can see a lot of my work on there. And I'm probably on there more often than anything else.
And how often do you offer classes there in your studio?
Well, I have weekly classes, the 3 classes that I do weekly, and people join. I don't require them to come every time. So if they have something else going on, a wedding or I don't know, whatever. And so they just come when they can. And so sometimes I have 8 people in class, sometimes 4 and sometimes 1. But as far as the classes that I do on weekends, I usually do a Friday, Saturday class every few months. And quite often it's the Wood Spirit class with the walking stick. But not always. Sometimes I do something else. In those classes, we all do the same thing. In my regular classes, everybody is doing something different. And so I'm just helping whatever they want to do. So it's a variety. And sometimes I teach out of state, and people have asked me to come and teach a group in a different state, and I have done that and enjoy that a lot. And sometimes I do one-on-one, where we just one person comes in and we'll spend a day together working. I pretty much do just a variety of things.
So we'll open up the room for any questions. Does anybody have questions for Susan at this time? Are there a particular brand of tool or knife that you recommend that you use on a regular basis, Susan?
You know, I do use this. This was a Shipley knife. This is an older Shipley knife, and that's one that I like. But I like the guy before this who made these before. I liked his style of knife really well, and so I do have a bunch of those that I purchased and still use. And Mike took over that and is now making them. He makes a little different handle now, but I still like these knives really well. I think they are great knives. There's one that is a more of a detail knife. It's shaped a little different, but now I like the biggest knife you can get for the space you can work in. And so I'm not one who carves with the little short detail knives as much. I can do everything with these big knives, and I feel I can do a lot more because I can reach places that I can't with a short knife. And so I don't have to put it down all the time. And so I like those. And the other thing that I like Swiss made tools a lot. They're my go-to tools. They're a little more expensive, but I really like them. And but because I have carved with so many people and I have so many different places that I've lived, I've picked up tools from everywhere. And I have a lot of Cutzinger tools. I really liked his tools. I actually took classes from his wife when we lived in Kansas, and they were weekly classes from the Cutzingers. And he's passed away, so he's not making the tools anymore, but I have a whole bunch of them and really, really like those tools. I think that I'm trying to think what the name is for they have this handle. This is a Denny tool, but that handle is the one I'm thinking about. Can you tell me who makes that? OCC, Old Country Carving. So I think Mike Shipley is the one that runs that or does that. I like those tools. They're good tools. I have Ashley Isles tools. I have Two Cherries tools. I have a little bit of everything. And I like them all. There's very few that I would say that aren't good tools. Some stay sharper longer than others, and Swiss made is one that just stays sharp for a long, long time.
Any other questions from the group at this time?
Yes, I looking at the Etsy page, I don't see any of the sticks listed. Do you ever sell the sticks?
You know, I haven't sold the sticks. I've only sold one actually. I make them and then I've been giving them away, and so I haven't sold them. But that's something that's in the future that I would like to do. I think they're might be fairly expensive because of the time they take to put several faces on it. But I think that they would sell well. Mine are just a little bit less, or I guess the word is more. They're more like a person's face, more realistic. And so I'm not making, they're a lot more detailed. And so they would be a little more expensive. And so I guess I haven't felt like I could probably sell them on Etsy, but that's something I'd like to try.
Well, I heard giveaway out of all of that. Do you need my address?
Yeah, I definitely do. You never know.
Thank you.
Probably wouldn't be a stick though. It'd probably be an ornament. I do hundreds of ornaments because they're fairly quick. I can do one in a day. That's from starting cutting it out on the bandsaw or the scroll saw and painting it. I can do one in about 8 hours. So those get done a lot more often. I have 7 brothers and sisters, and they get one every Christmas. And so they have, right now, I've been carving for about 35 years. So they have a full tree of my ornaments. And I have actually other people that buy them that say that they have a whole tree of my ornaments too. So it's kind of fun.
Susan, have you convinced any of your family members to become wood carvers?
No, you know, I taught my kids when they were younger, and neither of them took to them to carving. My older son cut himself because he didn't think mom knew everything, and so he did some things that weren't wise, and he cut himself. And so he, ever since then, that he doesn't wanted to do it. And the younger one wanted to make some what are those things that you catch fish with? Bait, but he wanted to make them out of wood, and he couldn't do it the first time he did it, so he didn't want to do it anymore. And so I know I haven't convinced anybody else to do it. Lots of other people I've convinced, and I've gotten to learn to carve, but my own 2 boys didn't take it up. I'm hoping that one day they will. They actually want my pieces. I have a lot of birds and animals that are realistic, and I didn't show you those, but they're really were fun classes to take. They would take a whole week to do one, so it was about 100 hours to do one, and they want those. They want those to. So when I die, they'll have some things of mine, but they'll also have my tools. So maybe they'll start carving as they get older.
Susan, are there shows that you participate in, other places maybe that people can see you at a wood carving show or something like that?
Well, we have one in Provo, and that's going to be the end of September. I think the 23rd or something like that, 24th, somewhere around that weekend. And I'll be participating in that show, and I'm usually a judge there. And then there's the Salt Lake show, and that's usually in March, and it's at Wheeler Farms, and I'm almost always there at that show as well. I don't always put something in the show because sometimes I don't have time to carve my own things when I'm teaching, and I have so many other things that are going on, so I don't always put anything in the show. But I'm almost always there at those 2. I've been to many shows in the different places we've lived over the years, and just think they're wonderful. They're so much fun to go to.
What do you feel like's been your biggest accomplishment in all the years that you've been carving?
My biggest accomplishment. Well, I maybe in helping this one gentleman carve some busts. He wanted a bust of his wife, and he wanted a bust of Chief Joseph, and he wanted a bust of, I can't remember what the third one was. I had never done a bust, and yet I talked him through the bust, and they came out wonderful. And I think that was one of the biggest accomplishments I ever did, because I had never done one. And so for me to actually carve that and help him carve it was kind of amazing for me. I didn't know if I could do it.
Were those life-size busts or?
They were.
Okay.
They were life size. They were.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that was a real challenge for me, because I had to learn how to transfer the thought of the smaller faces that I do into bigger, and still get the same dimensions right. And it was a challenge, but I was so pleased the way they came out, and he was too. He put him in the shows, and he got blue ribbons on everything. Trying to think if there's anything else that would interest anybody. I do wood turning. I actually took a class just a week ago and did some vases and some bowls and platters and things like that, and had a great time. That was with my brother-in-law that was here. He wanted to take a wood turning class, so I took it with him. And I don't know. I just
have you combined, this is Jack, have you combined your carving with your turning pieces?
I have.
Yeah, because that's sort of the evolving area right now. And with your talent in both areas, it'd be wonderful.
Yes, and I have done some. I don't know if I should leave the camera here to get them or not, but I could very quickly run and find a couple. Couple of the things that I've done. I took a bowl and I've been carving on it, carving trees and piercing through it. And so eventually that will be very nice. It's time consuming because of the tiny bits that you use in power carving. And that's one that I'm working on. I turned this little tiny bowl, was really, really thin, and I've been piercing through it, and broke a couple of places, and so I have some glue on it, but that'll.
What type of wood is that? Susan, what type of wood is that?
I'm not really sure actually what type of wood that is. I don't really know on that one. Most of these are, this one is, I call a patchwork quilt. And so I've taken different bits and made different textures with those different bits. And so this one, when it's finally finished and the oil's on it, I think it'll really show up nicely. But right now it doesn't really, it's probably a little hard to see, but I labeled it and put the name on the bottom, but I didn't put the wood, so I don't really know. This one right here is one that I did with the carving. I picked leaves and put them on the bowl and then carved those, and then wood burned around it.
Have you seen Dixie Biggs's work doing like you just showed?
Yeah, I've taken classes with her. Yeah.
Oh, she's phenomenal.
She's really good. Yep. This one I just did. Let's see if I can get it to focus in there. This one is done with a like a saw blade, and there's little tiny lines all the way around. And then I'm going to do these lines. They're carved lines on the outside. Yes, Dixie's excellent, and she does a lot of little things, and so really, really fun things that she does. I found this picture in a magazine. I don't know where it's in focus. It's like spider webs. There it is. So I'm putting that on the bottom of this bowl. Anyway, that's some of the things that I've been doing with those things. I think that it's fun to add all of the different kinds of things that I've learned together and make projects that use them all.
And this one may be a little difficult, but it says, who is your favorite wood carver? Do you have favorite wood carvers that you like to watch?
That I like to watch or take classes from. Well, Pete LeClaire was one of my favorites, and he's not teaching, I don't think, anymore, but he was one. Number of classes with Dave Stetson. I really enjoy his classes. He and Michelle are great. And Michelle taught me a lot about painting. I took classes from her as well. Oh gosh. I learned a lot from Dale Green. He taught me a lot about the hands, and I enjoyed those classes. I could never pick just one, I guess, because I've just learned so much from so many. They're all great. Every instructor I've ever had. I've never had an instructor I didn't like.
And another question from the chat. What advice can you give us for being a better wood carver? What do you think will help us become better?
I would say to carve every day. Every day, pick up that knife and carve for 15 minutes. If you do, you probably will carve for longer than 15 minutes because it's not something you put down easily. And I just think that that was what helped me the most. And what I tell my students all the time, just carve. Carve as much as you can in different styles. Don't try to carve just one kind of thing. Do chip carving, do gouge carving. There's a whole bunch of different kinds of carving that you can do, and it's like putting money in your wallet. You put in $1 and you put in another $1 and you put in another $1, and pretty soon you've got $5, and you have all of this information that comes together, and you start putting it together and using it as one. That's when you start being a better wood carver. So carve, carve, carve. Take classes.
Susan, this is Jack again. I think one thing you're showing though is that you experiment with so many different types of carving and applications with wood that I think that's one of the better things that people can grow with, is not just stay with one specific area, but explore and grow your talents with all these other things that you've done. It's remarkable what you've been working with.
It has been a journey of just pure fun for me, because every time I meet somebody that does something a little bit differently, I say, teach me, show me what you're doing, show me how to do it. And then I can put that into something else I'm doing. And yes, it's a journey that I think, at least for me, I have grown so much from, because I've had that opportunity. And part of it is because we moved a lot, and that probably, although I didn't always like to move, I learned a lot from it every time I moved, because of the people I met and the place that I was in. So and not everybody can do that, and I didn't want to at the time, but I did. I look back and I see that was a growing experience for me. And when we moved across the street from Dale Nish, that definitely was an experience for me, because he sort of took me into his realm of wood turning. And although I had taken classes from him when I was a college student many years before, moving next door to him brought a whole different viewpoint for wood turning. And I started taking more wood turning classes, and then putting that wood turning and wood piercing and burning into my carvings. And it changed a lot of things when I did that.
Any other questions from the group today? All right,
Susan?
Oh,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yes. I saw you over at the Rocky Mountain Roundup, and it was a pleasure to meet you and all the knowledge that you have. It was wonderful. Of course, everybody was gathered around you, learning knowledge from you. So it was a little difficult to getting more knowledge from you, but I did manage to get the Santa from you, the rough out, the one though he's in the undergarments. And he's been fun. I didn't make him bald. I left a little bit on top of his head because it was working that way when I was carving his head. And he ends up getting a curl on the top, So little curl. So it was lots of fun, and I still got to paint him. But anyway, and your shop is incredible. It is amazing, amazing, amazing. You have a beautiful shop, and just I'm sure it's something that everyone would want to have if they had the room for it. So it's wonderful. And also, I was looking for your Etsy page, and I put your name in, but I couldn't find you under your name. Do you have any idea?
Yeah, it's probably under Wasatch Woodcarver.
Okay. Okay. How do you spell that, please?
WASATCH.
CH. Thank you so much.
Wasatch. Yeah,
Okay.
we actually live on the foot of Wasatch Mountain. We are on the second to the last street, and then it's pure mountain up the hill.
Wonderful, wonderful.
And so, it's a wonderful place to live, and we overlook Utah Lake on the other side, and have a big wraparound porch that we can sit on and
Yes.
enjoy. And so sometimes I just sit out there and carve because
gosh. Yeah, it's beautiful. When I was up there, I didn't want to leave. It's just beautiful country. It's just gorgeous. Those mountains, the green grass and everything. So I can imagine you probably stay out there for hours. And I'm signed up to come back in when they have it again in this March coming. I think it is. So hopefully you'll be there, and I'll be able to see you again, if not before.
That will be great. I will look forward to that.
Thank you.
Okay, Susan, well, we're at an hour now, so I will go ahead and say thank you for coming on with us today. Thank you for the contributions that you make to the carving community. Everybody needs to make sure that you go out and check out her books, the Carving Wood Spirits, the Basics, and Carving Wood Spirits Beyond the Basics. And check out all the items that she has available out on Etsy. I took a look at the page a few minutes ago, and there's quite a few things out there. So make sure you take advantage of those. We're going to leave the auction open for the Helvie knife just for a few more minutes. Again, here's the Helvie knife. It's available. If you're interested in that, bid in the chat. A few other things that we have going on. Again, we're going to be doing the carving podcast this week with Dave Stetson. Dave's on with us today, and he'll be our next interview that we have. You'll be able to see that interview out on YouTube. There's also other places that you can listen to it. I think you can find it on Spotify, maybe Amazon Music. We're trying to get it on Apple Podcasts as well. That'll be the next place that you can find it. But go out and check out those recordings. Again, that's our opportunity to provide more carving content to the carving community. So take advantage of looking at those or listening to those. Again, the recorded video is going to be out on YouTube with all of our other videos. We have about 62 videos out on YouTube. We've been doing these meetings for over, I don't know, a year and 3 or 4 months. So if you've missed any of those meetings, make sure you go out and check those out. Another thing that we're going to offer, we're looking into buying hats similar to what Tom has on. It's going to be a Richardson 112 hat with our logo on it. So make sure if you're interested in getting a hat from us, watch for those. We're probably going to get about 20 to 24. They're going to be in a limited edition, but we just want to make those available, also advertise our group and make it available to the people that want to buy one. So we'll be advertising more about those. Having said all that, if there's no other bids in the group, We'll go ahead and end the bid on the knife at this point. And it looks as though Bud Adams was the last person to bid. So Bud, if you'll stay after, we'll get your information and take care of that. Wanted to thank Helvie again for offering up that knife. Rich also asked me, Rich at Helvie Knives asked me to let you all know that they're also going to be doing an auction on one of his tattoo knives. So it's a knife that he's actually wood burned. It's going to be out on their Facebook page. They're going to start that at 5 p.m. and end it at 11 p.m. tonight. If any of you know Rich's work and have, of course, you know Helvie Knives, but if you've seen any of the tattoo knives, he spends hours and hours on burning those things. They're really a piece of art. So if you're interested in picking one of those up, they're kind of a limited edition as well. Go out, check out their Facebook page tonight, and make sure you bid on that and see if you can get a chance at buying one of those. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Thank you all for joining us today. Thanks for continuing to support the International Association of Woodcarvers. Next time that we meet live, we're going to be meeting on, I think it's September the 11th with Dan Hero. He'll be our next live guest. And then we'll start having more regular meetings in October. So make sure you tune in for those. We're also doing the Friday Zoom room. If you want to get in with some carvings and just talk about wood carving and maybe share with each other, come in on Friday at 6 p.m. The same number, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This Zoom number. You never know who's going to be in the room. You can go in, ask questions, talk about carving, just visit with each other. We just open that up to make it available for people who may want to have questions. It's kind of a virtual club type meeting where you can just come in and talk to each other. So Zoom room on Fridays, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time if you want to do that. Thanks again, Susan, for coming on with us today. Thanks for all that you do for the carving community. Thank you all for joining us today. And again, this is the International Association of Woodcarvers, where woodcarvers are helping carvers. And we'll see you all again live next time on September the 11th with Dan Hero. Thank you all.
Thank you.